A Baijiu mojito sounds pretty good right about now. Slightly drunk in Chengdu. I'm Rob Schmitz for Marketplace.
Taking it for the team. And at Marketplace Online, we have a nifty interactive tool where you can look at associations between how much you make and other behaviors. On this election day in many parts of the country, we have politics by income. Turns out the most liberal people make between $130,000 and $149,000 a year. The most conservative people, very same range, $130,000 to $149,000. That income level also has the fewest political moderates, our tool shows. Then from the ridiculous to the sublime, our income upshot machine will also look at income and TV watching or income and belief in God. It's at marketplace.org. In New York, I'm David Brancaccio with the Marketplace Morning Report on APM, American Public Media.
Oops! Someone forgot to boost.
Ego time.
So whether you need to pinch a loaf at work, cut a rope at a party, or lay a brick at your boyfriend's, your days of embarrassing smells or prairie dogging it are over.
Mayhem at the mall.
The guy walks right past the front door and he's like just shooting shots in the air.
Inside the House of Horrors.
I was tied up like a fish.
Burgers, fries, and kids.
They're not advertising the healthy stuff. They're advertising the unhealthy stuff.
Good morning. I'm Steve Kathan with the CBS World News Roundup. Just before closing last night, one of the busiest shopping malls in the country became a scene of chaos.
We just saw everybody running. It was just craziness.
Shoppers ran for cover at the Garden State Plaza in Paramus, New Jersey, when a gunman started shooting.
Saw him walk past our door, and he paused for a second and just looked inside the store. And then he fired two more. He was all dressed in black from head to toe with a helmet.
He didn't seem to be targeting anyone.
He looked left and right and he said, I'm not going to hurt anybody.
And he didn't. No one was shot or injured.
The bullets were fired into an escalator, into an elevator area. There was some property of retailers that was struck, facade area. And then there were a couple of shots that were shot straight up.
Prosecutor John Molinelli.
We do believe that the main motive was suicide, whether self-inflicted or, God forbid, suicide by cop.
After hunting inside and outside the mall for hours, police found the body of 20-year-old Richard Shoup, dead of an apparent self-inflicted wound in a remote area of the mall. That shopping mall is closed today. In Denver, police were called to an empty middle school overnight. Police Chief Robert White says two young men broke in with guns and backpacks.
We sent our SWAT team in after a cat and mouse game for about 2 or 3 additional hours. We did apprehend the two individuals.
Police used the school PA system to communicate with the men. It was feared the backpacks contained explosives, but there's no final word on that. Court documents indicate the FBI is looking into the accused LAX shooter's views on the government and conspiracy theories. Authorities got a warrant yesterday to search Paul Ciencia's cell phone. In Washington, as repairs continue to the troubled Obamacare website, CBS's Cheryl Atkinson has the latest on security concerns for people who've provided personal and financial information.
The final required top-to-bottom security test never got done. 4 days before the launch, the government took an unusual step. It granted itself a waiver to launch the website with a level of uncertainty deemed as a high security risk.
And she says notes from a government meeting last week suggest there is worry over what, in some cases, has turned out to be fewer health insurance options and relatively high-cost plans for some people. Well, some are calling the Virginia governor's race a referendum on Obamacare. CBS's Dan Raviv says it's one of 2 states where voters today will choose a governor.
2 races for governor command the attention of folks who watch politics in New Jersey and in Virginia. It's widely assumed that New Jersey's Chris Christie will win re-election, hoping to boost his national possibilities in 2016 with a landslide. But his opponent, the Democrat, hit back in a commercial.
I'm Barbara Buono, the only one actually running for governor. Chris Christie's got his sights set on the Republican presidential primary.
In Virginia, a wealthy friend of the Clintons, Terry McAuliffe, is the Democrat running for governor. Bill and Hillary campaigned for him. So did President Obama and yesterday Vice President Joe Biden.
The whole nation is looking at this race.
While Republicans hope Ken Cuccinelli can be elected governor as proof that Americans reject Obamacare.
I'm Heather Bosch. Big issues on the ballot in several states. Voters in Colorado, who recently legalized recreational pot, are now deciding whether to tax it. Voters there are also looking at raising $1 billion a year for education by boosting Colorado's income tax. Those who earn more would pay at a higher rate. In New York, voters will look at raising money for education by okaying 7 casinos. 2 casinos are on the ballot in Massachusetts. Washington state voters might require labels on genetically altered food. And Houston voters are deciding whether to save or raise the Astrodome.
And there are battles for mayor in many cities, New York City, Boston, Detroit among them. In Minneapolis, 35 candidates are on the ballot for mayor. For the first time, one of the 3 women held prisoner in a Cleveland home for a decade is speaking at length about the ordeal. Michelle Knight tells Dr. Phil in a TV interview that airs today and tomorrow that sometimes her mouth was taped shut and an extension cord was used to restrain her.
I was tied up like a fish, an ornament on the wall. That's the only way I can describe it. I was hanging like this, my feet, and I was tied by my neck and my arms.
Her captor, Ariel Castro, died in prison a month into his sentence. Miami Dolphins coach Joe Philbin says if a review shows his locker room is an unsafe workplace, he'll do what it takes to ensure it is safe. The Miami Herald reports the team plans to cut ties to suspended lineman Richie Incognito. He's accused of sending racist and threatening texts to teammate Jonathan Martin. Miami lineman Jared Odrick is thinking of Martin, who left the team last week.
I hope everything that he is going through gets cleared up and, he's able to continue his career.
In Washington, the Senate is closer to passing a bill that would deal with a form of workplace discrimination. Here's Capitol Hill correspondent Bob Fuss.
A procedural vote in the Senate last night broke a filibuster and will allow a measure to move forward that would make workplace discrimination against gays and lesbians illegal. Such discrimination is legal now in more than half the states, says Senate Democratic leader Harry Reid.
It's time for Congress to pass a federal law that ensures all Americans, regardless of where they live, can go to work unafraid to be who they are.
Backers say a victory in the Senate would be historic, but they face a decidedly uphill fight in the Republican House, where it's unlikely to even come to the floor. Bob Fuss, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Despite rising obesity concerns, a new study says fast food places continue to spend billions on ads that target young people. We're live with CBS's Vicki Barker.
These New York parents already know what the Yale study confirms.
They're not advertising the healthy stuff. They're advertising the unhealthy stuff.
To the tune of $4.6 billion a year. Most of those ads targeting kids and teens. And it's no better inside their local fast food chain.
I take my kids there, and there's little pictures of the apples and stuff, and huge pictures of the French fries and hamburgers.
In fact, the study found fewer than 1% of kids' meal combos meet current nutritional recommendations, and just 3% meet standards set by the industry itself. Steve?
Well, heads up for tourists in our nation's capital. For the first time since March, there will be White House tours today. They were stopped because of the automatic budget cuts known as the sequester. Some people were ghost hunting late last night, looking for the new Call of Duty video game just released called Ghosts.
Secure the perimeter. Lawn chairs and blankets bundled up and lined up down the sidewalk. Why?
I'm getting Call of Duty Ghost.
Why at midnight?
Why not at midnight?
People lined up at stores like this all around the country to get the new video game. And once they got it in their hands...
You got to get in there and you got to start getting levels up and get ahead of everything.
So, do you stay up all night and play?
Oh, yeah. Red Bulls and many hours.
No school, no work?
No. Everyone takes off. It's a big party.
Dave Cohen for CBS News, New Orleans.
Happy 100th birthday to Vernon Maynard of Palm Desert, California. He celebrated in high-flying style, checking jumping from a plane from his bucket list. 2 nephews went along on Maynard's first and successful skydive. That's the World News Roundup. I'm Steve Kaith, CBS News.
Killing that boy is a thing I regret having had to do, but if you push me any further ever, you or your brothers, I won't shoot one of you in the arm and hold my fire on the other. I won't chance it a second time.
The theme to Have Gun Will Travel.
I have not seen that in a very, very long time. I remember watching it at my Grandma Hafner's house back in the early to mid 80s when she first got cable. It was on one of the channels that she picked up. But a very early Gene Roddenberry series, if I'm not mistaken, long before Star Trek came about. Well, it's time for News of the Weird on this Tuesday, so without further hesitation, let's get right to it. And British store reports huge demand for reindeer meat. Boy, I'm just getting over the fact that there are people in America that want horse meat. Well, British supermarket chain Lidl, or is it Lidl? Lidl, I think, Lidl, is reporting a huge demand for reindeer meat during the holidays. Diced Siberian reindeer meat was first introduced to the stores during the holidays 3 years ago, and it was sold out within a week, according to the chain. The reindeer meat has been the subject of protests from animal rights groups such as PETA, who say no one likes the idea of eating Rudolph at Christmas. Apart from that, PETA says protecting reindeer herds has led to the shooting of endangered wolves and bears who try to eat the farmed reindeer. I have no idea what reindeer meat tastes like, but I don't think it tastes like chicken. I would suspect it would taste more like deer meat, which I'm not very fond of myself. But to each is their own. It's time now for popular tweets of the day.
And you can always follow me on Twitter.
Hello, computer. Just use the keyboard. The keyboard? How quaint.
Well, he's been making news headlines for several months, but I never mentioned him until now. Toronto Mayor Rob Ford is apologizing for mistakes he has made, but says he will not be leaving office, despite the fact that police have recovered a controversial video that allegedly shows him using crack cocaine. Well, I've gone to the Twitter nonetheless to see what people had to say about the case, and here are some of the results I found. Here Jeet writes, "Our rap stars are respectable civic leaders, and our mayor smokes crack. Welcome to Toronto." Indecision writes, "Rob Ford gets to keep being mayor even though he smoked crack? Man, Canadians are polite." Charles Demers writes, "I wish the Rob Ford story would go back to being a fun, crack-smoking mayor story instead of a scary gangster stories or running Toronto story." I screwed that up. Let's try that again. I wish the Rob Ford story would go back to being a fun... I have a podcast. I wish the Rob Ford story would go back to being a fun, crack-smoking mayor story instead of a scary gangsters are running Toronto story. Easy for me to say. And finally, John Fish writes, "Who knew they had crack in Canada?" And those are the popular tweets of the day. It's time now for my favorite portion of the program, and it's time for the song of the day. Feels like I forgot to run something. Let me run over my list to make sure that I have it. And it looks like I got all the other segments in, so for some reason I have the song of the day listed twice. Alright, maybe I'll play it in stereo. A quadraphonic, as it were. What is this, 1990? Okay, it's time for the song of the day. And today is for all you Deadheads out there, Grateful Dead fans. This is from their 10th studio album called Shakedown Street. This is the title track. It was released on November 15th, 1978 by Arista Records. The album was released for the first time on CD in 1987 by Arista Records, before being re-released in 2000 by BMG International. It was then remastered, expanded, and released as part of the band's Beyond Description box set in October of 2004, which covered the years 1973 to 1989. The remastered version was later released separately on CD on March 7th, 2006 by Rhino Records. This is the band's second album on the Arista label after releasing 3 albums on its own, Grateful Dead Records. It is also the last album to feature keyboardist Keith Godchal and his wife and vocalist Donna Jean. It depicts the reasons for inner-city urban decay. The album, including the song Shakedown Street, took 41 of the Billboard Top 200 charts for 1979. It later became a colloquial term to describe the area outside of a concert where various merchandise is bought and sold. And now, without further delay, here is Shakedown Street by the Grateful Dead, and it is today's Song of the Day.